Assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdeed, ji aya nu goeiemorgen.
Pagkairagale, ni hao, chunashime, washmale, ohio gozaimasu, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shima chatore, Alan Masaran Baraba, Buna, mucho gracias, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside the very stunning, the very fabulous, the very amazing, the very superb, the very ecstatic Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you
I'm
today?
absolutely great, but just a little tired. What about you?
Oh, well, I feel superb. Last night I was at my friend's place. We were
Okay.
having barbecue, had a lot of mutton,
Wow.
whatnot, cooked ourselves as well. So it was superb. I think I got the time to speak my heart out as well because
Oh,
recently I think people are witnessing that too as well. That Shiza does not really give me a chance to speak, but it's perfectly all right.
they
I
are
spoke my
witnessing
heart out
otherwise.
at my friend's place as well. But what about you?
What about me? As I already mentioned, so sorry for stuttering early in the morning. Probably we had the wrong coffee. But, I feel a little tired. That's again, because I'm studying as well, right? So my
Yeah,
finals are
yeah.
just around the corner. So I'm
Really?
working over here.
When are
Yeah.
they starting?
18th May, 17th May or
18
18th
May.
May.
Okay, that's cool.
So I'm just working on my, term and assignments and then this work. And then, of course, I miss my family a lot. It's sort of a burnout situation. Do you know what burnout is?
Yeah, I think I kind of know what burnout is. So burnout, ladies and gentlemen, is, when you actually park your car
Okay.
and then you kind of, press the gas to a level where the tires start to spin and then they start to burn. So is that the burnout we are referring to?
That is definitely not the burnout we're talking about. We're talking about human burnout. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure it has happened to you as well, right?
okay.
Does it ever happen that because of the work pressure that you have and because of the, so many chores that you have to do and things that you have to pull off, you are so exhausted that you literally feel detached from, working?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you can't strike a balance between your work life
Yeah.
and life otherwise.
Exactly, and Shita, thank you very much for saying that. I'm sorry that I, took it the other way
No
as well
problem.
when you were talking about burnout since I'm a petrol head, but I think you've hit the nail on the head as well. And yeah, recently I think I felt that too as well, but then, there's this inner motivation which keeps on telling you that, this is the age where you can actually push hard
True.
or probably harder as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I think Shiza is referring to burnout because of the fact that a lot of times, we were so busy with work that we actually get exhausted. And there's wear and tear in our body too as well, which we might not even realize. And it's
Yeah.
just because of the fact that we're so dedicated towards work that we forget family, or probably we do not have time to share with
Right.
family, go out, do something to yourself, or probably pamper yourself. You're just out of it. So you felt burnt out as well. And,
True.
adding on to that, Shiza, I've seen a lot of people basically, for example,
Okay.
people from television like us. I don't remember going to any of my friends' wedding. Imagine that.
Oh,
And this is
yeah.
such a problem
So
that every
sad.
time I see them and the couples, what they do is that they usually complain that Shazad bhai, you were not there on our wedding. And
It's not a good thing,
so so
right? I
so what I
mean,
tell them is that that most of the weddings are actually on weekends, and on weekends you get to do those private shows as
right,
well, and
gigs you usually
and if you
always
book
have.
them already, so you get exhausted. But then imagine that today, even ladies and gentlemen, is a very important day. I want Shiza
Absolutely.
to actually introduce the day,
Okay.
and we're still working. So now let's see which day it is.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, it happens to be the 1st of May and 2019 it is. And ever since, well, more than 100 years, we've been celebrating this day in Pakistan and across the globe. Today happens to be World Labour's Day,
Yeah,
and we are celebrating their rights, protecting their rights, talking about even if they have any,
exactly.
especially in this part of the world. And for the history, I feel like, head back to Shazad.
Yeah, exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the history, obviously history dates back to the 17th century or the 16th century as well. But the most recent, which we could get our hands on, was from 1880,
Yeah.
where actually, they formed a union and they went on to riots or probably took to the streets as well in New Zealand, in Australia, in America. And since that day, and talking about 1818s, it actually happened in September, and on the 4th of September, to be more precise. Well, that
Okay.
does not really matter, but what
Yeah.
they still do is that they still celebrate Labour's Day in September, or probably in the first week, the first Monday. That's how they do it. And the sole reason to do this was to actually let people know that, they are overworked and, they really need a bit of relaxation. They are
Absolutely.
underpaid. And then there are no perks to the job as well. And to better explain this, we've got a small video to share. Go ahead, take a look, and when you guys will come back, we're actually going to talk about it, and then how the 18th Amendment within the Constitution is actually worsened, or do you think that they have taken this to another level in a very positive manner? We'll talk about that. Let's do this.
Stay tuned.
In the late 1800s, labor toiled 8 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, often in physically demanding, low paying jobs. Children worked too, on farms, in factories, and in mines. Conditions were often harsh and unsafe. Therefore, in 1886, on 1st May, there was a general strike for 8-hour workday in Chicago. On 4th May, the police acted to disperse a public assembly in support of the strike when an unidentified person threw a bomb. The police responded by firing on the workers. The event led to the death of 8 and injury of 6 police officers, as well as an unknown number of civilians killed or wounded. Hundreds of labor leaders and sympathizers were later rounded up and 4 were executed by hanging, after a trial that was seen as a miscarriage of justice. The following day, on 5th May, the state militia fired on a crowd of strikers, killing 7. In 1889, a meeting in Paris was held by a first Congress of the Second International following a proposal that called for international demonstrations on the 1819 anniversary of Chicago protests. May Day was formally recognized as an annual event at the International Second Congress in 1891 subsequently. The May Day riots of 1894 occurred. The International Socialist Congress in 1904 called on all Social Democratic Party organizations and trade unions of all countries to demonstrate energetically on the 1st May for the legal establishment of the 8-hour day. The Congress made it mandatory upon the organizations of all countries to stop work on 1st May, whether it is possible without injury of the workers.
Whether it is possible without the injury of the workers. Ladies and gentlemen, we've definitely come a long way. Imagine that people working for more than 10 hours a day and that too 7 days a week. Obviously, you'll feel burnt out as well. And when, there was a survey done by the institute with the name of Gallup,
Yeah.
and they came up with these statistics that out of 75,000 people's workforce, 44% actually felt burnt out as
Yeah.
well, which means that they were exhausted, there was no balance in their life, and then, they were getting minimum wages.
Absolutely.
Over here, ladies and gentlemen, talking about that, I think that this issue was actually being raised 2 or 3 years ago when the minimum wage was actually raised to 15,000 rupees. But eventually, if we go down into the streets as well, wherever we're going to see these laborers, they're actually not getting paid 15,000
Right,
rupees.
right.
Now, this one thing is very different. It is an irony, but the other dilemma over here is that our labor force, first of all, I think that they actually need a little bit of training too in terms of skills. And then other than that, they actually need to be made aware of their rights, which I believe that nobody's actually working in that direction, may it be media, may it be the public offices, or may it be any individual.
And Shazad, there are definitely some labor unions who are definitely working for the rights, but again, they're not heard. I mean, well, this is absolutely very funny. Today happens to be Labor Day. I was
We are
about to say
working.
laser. No,
Yes.
we are the privileged ones, Shazad. We really have to accept that because on my way, I was even seeing the actual laborers, or mazdoor as we call, they were still working. I mean, shouldn't they be taking a day
Because,
off? But here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a good time for Pakistani laborers, first of all, because a lot of them happen to live abroad as well. They're Pakistani expats, and they're adding a lot to the economy of the country through remittances. Other than that, well, the incumbent government, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, is doing great for Pakistan. Absolutely. There's this EHSAS program. And this was just yesterday where Prime Minister Imran Khan was chairing a meeting, and it was, sort of announced that there's going to be a subdivision of the program EHSAS. It is called Mazdoor Ka EHSAS program.
Yeah.
And on Labour's Day today, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be officiated by the Prime Minister himself.
Amazing that is. And then one more thing, ladies and gentlemen, which we need to raise our voices about, that is that, generally what happens is that, I'm sorry that we have the figures from US today, but we'll definitely try to get my hands on the figures within Pakistan. But annually, a labor woman is actually paid $35,000, where a man is actually paid $47,000. So there's this difference too as well.
Still happens in Hollywood even.
Yeah, within that community as well. So I think we probably need to raise our value. We need to be concerned about it as well, and we really need to help those people because they're not aware of their rights. And to talk about all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, we have actually been joined by somebody who's a barrister. He happened to be a senior at my university. What a wonderful day that we are meeting again after I don't know how many years, but now he's become very serious. When he used to be in university, he wasn't this serious as well. Probably it's because of the fact that he's actually affiliated with the profession of lords. He's none other Mr. Jawad Niazi. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum Shahzad, how are you doing?
I'm absolutely perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you, Jawad bhai, over here.
Same here.
And alongside Mr. Jawad, ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined with somebody who's the Advocate High Court, and he is none other Mr. Nasir Anjum Awan. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for inviting this program and on this very August day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. So first things first, how would you like to highlight the importance of this day?
I think it's a very important day, especially in the history of the modern world. But it's very important in Pakistan because now the labor rights are very important in this country too.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there is lack of implementation in Pakistan in relation to labor laws.
Exactly.
Right, that is so true. Well, one more thing, Shahzad, I feel like we forgot to mention the theme for this year's Labour Day. It happens to be sustainable pension for all, the role of social partners. Moving on to you, Mr. Nasir, what do you feel about the theme this year?
Basically, this is at the same day we can say it. It is day of agitation and day of celebration as well.
Right,
So celebrations are there whenever some things and certain things are achieved.
Yeah.
Targets are achieved. But over here, since centuries, there is a struggle and still they are agitating for their rights and still accomplished is not over there.
Exactly.
All right, so let's start the discussion with the current existing laws in Pakistan in terms of the constitution, and then on provincial level as well, ever since the devolution. Let's start with you, Jawad.
After the devolution, the 18th Amendment, the Constitution of Pakistan, is mainly the responsibility of the provinces to implement and make laws related to labor laws. But the federal government also has the power through constitutional and other federal laws over the labor laws.
Okay.
So there is overlap between the federal laws and the provincial laws.
Oh, okay.
But the main responsibility for making labor laws and implementation lies on the provinces.
Okay.
All right. But what are the laws? I mean, I think that, we really need, to educate all of those people who are out there so that, every individual is actually watching us. Because obviously, ladies and gentlemen, we do open our windows in 46 other countries, but talking about Pakistan, not a lot of people over here are very, habitual of watching English news or English shows as well. So for all those individuals who are out there, how we do it is that we are going to educate you guys, and then it's going to be your responsibility to educate on the lower tier.
Just one more thing,
Yeah.
I just realized that a lot of people are going to be watching our show today because, of course, universities are off, schools are off, all, mainstream offices are off. The privileged ones are actually enjoying their breakfast in bed today.
Yeah.
How
So
weird.
everybody who's enjoying their breakfast in bed and listening to us, please make sure that, you fulfill your responsibility as a citizen.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir.
Okay, let's start with you.
So if we, the significance of 1st May as this movement was going on, so basically what are the rights, and these are basically the consciousness of the people when they struggle for their rights. And over here I would like to quote that existing laws presently in the constitution, they are well evolved in that respect.
Okay.
In this respect,
Glad to
there is Article 11 where this is a fundamental right of the individuals, of the citizens of Pakistan, that they cannot be forced for forced labor. Second important significance is that there is restraint of child कि उनको till the age of 14 उनको इसके लिए नहीं किया जा सकता. Then there is one exception कि then for the convicts, if certain people who are convicted and they are convicted for the rigorous imprisonment, so then they can be to some extent किया जा सकता है.
Okay, perfect.
But even then, not below the dignity. So even the prisoner is there, so even then he will not be forced. And what was the theme behind those laws?
Right.
Simply the consciousness of those people who struggled in that movement. And what was the poem at that time when this movement in America was going on? Simply it is based on those consciousness.
Yes,
and
please
what
go
are
ahead.
those words? We want to feed sunshine.
Okay.
Want to smell the flowers. We are sure that God has willed it, and we mean to have 8 hours. We are summoning our forces from yardships, shop, mill. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours for what we will.
I like
so
it.
the whole theme which is going on in the present laws whatsoever, whether these are the Factory Act 1934, whether these are the labor laws, whether it relates with the industrial relations. So the same theme is going on.
Okay.
So which is over there.
Right, perfect, very right.
Okay, and now, okay, I'm sorry, but I'll have to be honest over here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think everybody knows the name of a boy who was 12 years old and was murdered over here in Pakistan. His name was Iqbal Masih. And I think everybody is well aware of the fact as well, who actually fought for the rights of all those people who were actually involved in bonded labor. Now, when we talk about that, so we have these feudal lords as well over here in Pakistan. What they do is that, for example, if they have lent money to somebody or to a family and they cannot give it back, so what they do is that they actually have to work for that particular family.
For the rest of
But then what people do is that they make them work for the rest of their lives. And that kid actually started to raise voice, and then there were a few feudal lords as well. Or there were other forces who actually didn't like it very much as well, and then the boy got killed as well. We don't certainly know who did it, how did it all happen, but I think that he gave us a message for, and it was our responsibility to move the legacy ahead as well.
Definitely.
Now, Jawad, I want to know, we do still have people over in Pakistan with that mindset. How do you think that this mindset is going to change?
I think the most important thing is education. As in our Constitution of Pakistan, Article 25A, it's the job of the state to provide free education to everyone.
Yeah.
So I think education is going to be a key factor. And the most important thing, for example, we have Domestic Welfare Act in Punjab, but there is lack of implementation in it. In fact, the workers are given leave on that. They are supposed to give a leave on holidays. They go on holidays. There are different benefits that they are given under the law. But there is no implementation of that. That's the basic problem. So we need to keep people aware of their rights, what their rights are basically, so they can safeguard them.
Amazing.
Okay, you want to add something to it?
Yes, in this I would say a little bit, although 1973 Constitution was promulgated in 1973,
Right.
but Bonded Labour Act 1991 was come into existence. So meaning thereby that there is slackness on the part of the people who were involved in legislation. It came into existence in 1991, meaning thereby already we lapsed more than 20 years to reach at that level, because the Constitution provides the basic fundamental principles.
Right, right.
So, and definitely, meaning thereby we are little bit more slow.
Okay.
We are not caring about our own citizens. So this is an obligation of the state.
Absolutely.
Under Article 4 of the Constitution, that each and every individual must be dealt in accordance with law.
Right, you're so
And
right.
as well, this is the obligation of the individuals to obey the laws of the land.
Okay.
So laws are there, but we are lacking over there
in implementing them.
implementations.
Okay, perfect. I feel like, yeah, that is so true. I mean, the laws sometimes do exist, but then again, we lack in implementation. But again, Pakistan is not the only country, which needs to have labor laws in place. This was probably just 3 to 4 days ago, I'm not really sure, or last week actually, where Indonesia was having their elections, and around 300 people working on the polling stations, including police officers, died of exhaustion, Shahzad. Imagine, I mean, working 72 hours straight. I cannot even imagine people dying of being tired. So, I mean, talk about the laws in other parts of the world, and then let's compare them with Pakistan. I mean, where do we stand?
See, we have laws that covers the the international main principles, the practices that has been followed in the international world. So that's not a problem.
Okay.
And there's international organization, international labor organizations, which keep an overeye on the laws that are made in Pakistan. And there's uniformity among. They try to have uniformity among the laws of Pakistan laws and international laws, so that everything works in conformity with the international laws.
So that's a good thing.
So that's a very good thing.
Right.
So, but the problem is that we still need to implement them. The policy of implementation is weak.
But how do we get all of these laws implemented? Because since the beginning of the show, this is the second time that you have actually said it, that we need the implementation to take place. Who's going to do that? People who are actually in the chair, they are supposed to do it? Or do you think that laborers actually need to push them in forms of unions as well? And then at the same time, there's this one reservation I have about labor unions, is that half of the time, what I've witnessed in my life, that whenever they've gone for a strike, or whenever they've left work, or they're like that, we're not going to work, I think a few of the times the reasons are very personal. They does not have to do anything with violation of their rights, and then they misuse these unions too.
Does that happen?
Yeah, see, unions are there for purpose to protect the rights of the workers.
Yeah.
And they are in fact encouraged in the Constitution of Pakistan, under the Article 17 of the Constitution of Pakistan.
Okay.
But sometimes, you're right, there are few people that take advantage of the unions for their own personal gains,
Yeah.
which should not be happening. But unfortunately, this is happening in our country.
Exactly.
But we should encourage labor unions because they are there to protect the rights of the workers, and they are the only, the main source for the workers to protect them, to represent their problems to the country and to the government, and tell them what their problems are.
Okay.
Okay,
Amazing. This is
okay.
Basically, the role of the unions is a bridge between the employer and the employee. So they have to work together for the implementation of their rights as well as their obligations. But unfortunately, in our country, in our society, we can say it, these are the exploitations. Normally for what purpose they were created, they are not doing for that.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, right now we do have another report to share with you. This is about the women working in the agriculture sector of Pakistan. But before that, here are, there are some things that I need to discuss.
Sure,
so, there
go
was
ahead.
an interview, sort of research held with more than 100 people belonging to the textile industry of Pakistan. And we all know how sort of poor it gets as we go to the lower level of that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there are forced overtime. There's no paid maternity leaves, actually, and there are no paid leaves at all.
There's no maternity leave as well.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And minimum wages and pensions, and most of them don't even get that. So they were absolutely frustrated with it. But what do we have in this report regarding the agriculture sector?
Exactly.
Let's take a look at it.
And I just want to add a little bit to this as well, ladies and gentlemen, before we go towards the report, and that is that we are a country whose economy is actually based on agriculture.
Yeah.
And when we talk about agriculture, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you're going to go to the rural areas of Pakistan where the agriculture processes take place, half of the time you're going to see that there are a lot of women who are actually working on the field as well.
Yes.
And to be honest over here, the basic salaries which they're supposed to get, first of all, they do not get it because they think that it is obligatory for them to do that because of the fact that their husbands or their brothers or their fathers have pushed them to do that.
Right.
And then all of what they should be earning goes unaccounted as well because of the fact that once again they're doing it in a favor for their brother, probably husband, or that's the family system, how they're supposed to do it. So imagine that it is actually having an impact on the economy too as well. Go ahead, take a look at this report, and when you guys will come back, we're going to talk about child labor. How do we protect that? I mean, and I think everybody is a victim, not victim, but I think a lot of people over here in Pakistan are actually a part of child labor, and that too I'm saying because of the fact that every household I can go, we visit. We see a kid bringing in a tea, we see a kid bringing in biscuits and whatnot, cleaning the house, or probably, some one way or the other. I think everybody's involved, including me. Let's do that.
A group of Pakistani women in Pipli village near Okara, squatting with dirt and crusted hands picking through piles of potatoes. This is not a common farm scene in the area, and even less common considering their boss is also a woman.
The idea of being an agriculturist hit by an accident. I got married into a rural system and there wasn't much activity around. I was confined into 4 walls of my house and I could not go out. But Alhamdulillah, I got a very educated husband who actually made me believe that I can do whatever I can, even in those 4 walls, with the power of the education. And it was one day we decided to turn our barren land, which we inherited from our parents, into a productive land.
There are around 100 women working on the farm every day, and during harvest time, the number triples. Workers are paid around 350 Pakistani rupees a day. Shkura Mai, a 45-year-old woman, is one of Iqbal's employees who converted her mud hut into a brick house kitted out with solar power, biogas, and even a private toilet, thanks to the extra income.
हाल में दिन आ रहा भाई अगली पहुंच जौन से तो गुजर गई कौन की नवी ताजी हल्ला देगा गुंजाइश कोई स्कूल सकाल खुला देंगे किसी पास दरस ते बच्चे ने पढ़ाई करा देंगे.
Women make up half of the population of Pakistan, yet according to statistics, they constitute only 1/4 of the total labor force. They often face barriers at every stage of their life, from educational opportunities to the threat of violence and sexual harassment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with 350 rupees a day, do you think that everybody can actually or be able to live a good life, live a healthy life, and then send their kids to school? This is something we really need to pick up on. We will definitely pick up on this, but after a short
break. Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome back to World This Morning with Shazad Khan and Shazza Hashmi, ladies and gentlemen, on the 1st of May when we're talking about Labour's Day and we're talking about sustainable pension for all. But before we went out to a short break, Shazad mentioned that we need to talk about child labour. Definitely we will, but before that, since we were watching a small report on agriculture workers, this was probably in Sindh, I'm not really sure as well, but Jawad over here says that agriculture workers are not even considered under the bracket of workers or labourers, right? You have to be, first of all, considered under that to attain all the rights that you have. So please explain this.
And before you explain this, there's this once more point which we have picked up on, ladies and gentlemen. We were discussing it during the break, and that was that the lady actually, while giving her interview, said that each and every members or each and every ladies actually paid 350 rupees. So they're actually supposed to give one holiday throughout the week, so which makes that, for example, if it's 30 days in a month, it's taken out 7 days probably, it's going to be 20. I think there are 4 weeks, 4 holidays. So it becomes roughly somewhat around 11,000 rupees, which is still
monthly,
not the wage which we are supposed to pay to all those people who are working. So please make sure that we pay them the minimum wage set by the government at least, which is 15,000 rupees.
Half of our population work as a domestic workers in agricultural fields, as we know. But in order to classify as a worker, you have to come under the definition. In order to classify under the law, basically, you have to come under the worker. Right. So under the worker definition in the law, agricultural workers are not included. So they're excluded from this bracket of the law. So there's no protection of the law for them in our law right now.
How sad is that? I mean, they put in their hours, so many hours of working, right? And then they're not even, let's say, eligible to attain the rights.
But why are they not eligible to attain their rights?
Because they're not classified as workers in the definition
of
the
labor laws. What are they classified as then?
They are agricultural workers. So we don't have basically laws for the agricultural workers right now in this country in order to classify them as laborers.
And yet we're an agrarian society.
Basically, what is the reason behind that? Whenever there is legislature, so always legislature has its own intentions and objectives. So when we talk about that in broad way, to everybody who is working over there, he seems to be a worker. But when we talked about the statute or when we talked about all those things which are legislated, so that is altogether a different thing. So that is for the purposes of enforcing of the cases before the courts and for that particular purpose. So here what we need, if the legislatures sit together and if are these things to be made simple and very clear, so we can go for that. It is not a matter of big deal. So we should be made it very clear and simple, where the laws are always for the generalities. So when certain segments of the societies are not going to be covered, so meaning thereby there is certain loopholes in our legislation.
Exactly. So, continuing and building up on the loopholes as well. Shida, do you want to say something?
If you're talking about child labour.
I want to move on to child labour, but very quickly I wanted to touch upon the labour courts as well. So the labour courts over here in Pakistan do exist. Well, other than existing, do they function even?
Yes, they do function. In Punjab and other provinces, there are special designated labour courts. See, but the problem is that, as a worker, you need to have money in order to go to labour court. First of all, you need to know that your rights have been infringed and you need to go to labour courts. And the workers, as we know, they're not earning much. So they don't have much money to, go to the courts. They don't have money to pay lawyers' fees. And so that's the problem, we are facing in this country.
So again, they're not being heard as well, right? The less fortunate segment of the society or the underprivileged ones. But Shazad, you definitely need to repeat your question. Before that, I just need to say, I personally even know a lot of people who have, children even, in their teenage working for them, day and night, living with them, serving their kids. And when you ask them where you got the kids from, they're like, iska baap hame serve karta tha, iska chacha hamare yahan kaam karta tha. I mean, you're not supposed to do that. You're at least, if you're associated with them in any way, at least you're supposed to send them to school for basic education, right?
Exactly, and I think I want to add on to this as well. I mean, what I've seen in my household is that, for example, if, now there's no way that, any child can actually work at our place. But if they've worked, there was a time when we were actually all growing up, and, obviously, things are not that smooth in life, because you're actually working hard to reach towards your destiny. So there are days when you actually have to, make it work. So, for all those kids who've actually worked at our places, I think that we as individuals, alhamdulillah, I'm not just, saying something very amazing about myself, but this is what the truth is.
Okay.
I mean, we have managed to get them married, we have managed to get them, religious education. I mean, whatever was in the capacity. And I think that, if we cannot stop that, probably we can do something, or we can give a skill to that particular person.
Right.
Now they know how to drive, now they know how to cook, or probably, they can earn by themselves as well.
Right, absolutely.
But talking about this, there are a lot of different workshops. There are a lot of different places. Wherever we go, we do see child labor. And child labor, I think, within our constitution, I'm not very sure about it, it's prohibited, it's banned, and we still see it. So who's going to apply or implicate all of these, laws which are being made, and then follow through as well?
See, after the 18th Amendment in the Constitution of Pakistan, now the responsibility mainly lies on the provinces to implement the laws and force them. So it's the responsibility of the provinces, and the federal government is going to keep an overall eye on them.
Yeah.
Under the Constitution, they are.
But where is the eye, and where do you think that the provincial governments are actually doing it?
Where's the eye?
The eye is there in terms of the protection of the principle, the policy of the
Yeah.
Constitution, which is, Article 11, Article 25A, Article 17,
Yeah.
which provide protection to the workers and the child laborers especially.
Okay.
And Article 25A provide basically access to everyone to education, to the age of 16 to everyone, every citizen of Pakistan.
But the articles are there, but it's not happening. Nobody's getting free education. I think that we need to raise all of these points.
If I add into that,
Sure.
when we talked about the children employment, so then it is not completely barred. Under the Constitution, under Article 14 of the Constitution, it is just one embargo, the age of 14 years. Less than age of 14 years, it is completely barred.
Prohibited.
It is prohibited.
Okay.
So far as concerned, the children who are more than age or above the age of 14 years, so then for their employment, there is an enactment, Children Employment Act.
Okay.
It is all those rights and obligations that in what manner they will be employed.
Can we talk about some of the rights?
Yes, out of them, one of the right is that if the one child who is at the age of 14, 15 or 16 years of age, so this is the right of that child for the continuously more than 3 hours he will not be worked. After working 3 hours, he will be given 1 hour rest.
Okay.
And so like that other
Right. Thank you
rights.
for enlightening us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even we didn't know that.
Yes,
right?
and there's a one-day holiday for them, 1 week, and 1 week.
One day in a week.
One day in a
Okay.
week, they need to have a holiday.
Okay.
Then they have, especially if it's a female worker, they have a maternity leave too.
Okay.
So the law is there. And
Again, no one
then
implements.
implementation
And
is there.
The sad part is, it is definitely about implementation. But the people who don't implement, people don't even question them, right? I mean, there's no questioning, there's no accountability.
Yeah, agreed. But we are progressing as a society. There is a lot of public litigation which is forcing the government. People are going to courts to put, in order to safeguard these rights. For other people, they are going, not for themselves. They are going to the court to protect the rights of other people for the implementation of the laws. So I think we are moving forward, and that's a good thing.
Right, that's a good
So far is concerned to the extent of legislation.
Yeah.
On this particular issue, employer and employee and workers and like that, there is more than 100 enactments are available.
Okay.
Since before the Pakistan and after Pakistan's enactment. But the question is that where it lies, who is responsible for that? Being the social doctor of my own society, this is my duty.
Yeah.
This is the duty of media, which is doing well as we are sitting over here to highlight these all issues. So in this way, there is need to be elaborated further, and there is need to struggle.
Exactly. I think that needs to be done as well, and I think that every individual, they need to play a role, as Jawad Sahab over here was mentioned very correctly, that there are other people who actually went to the courts to, to file a case for somebody else's right. Now, this is a beautiful thing to be heard, but then at the same time, there's one thing which I want to ask you guys. It might not relate with labor laws, it might not relate with anything else, and the dilemma over here is that, justice denied is justice
Delayed.
Justice delayed is
delayed.
justice
Yes.
denied.
Justice
So,
denied.
so
Yes.
now what I want to say over here, justice delayed, I think is
Is-
justice
yes,
denied. Yes,
yes.
that's how it is. Now, what I want to know over here is that every time everybody is going to a court, why are the processes so long? And why are the cases never ending? And why, our lawyers are not on the same page for all of these things as well, you know. So, you know, everybody is working for their own agenda.
No, it's not like that. I think the main problem is that, which we have agreed as a nation, as a policymakers, that there are a shortage of lawyers and shortage of judges in this country.
And the ones we have are often not ethical as well.
Yes, and the problem is that the judges are
No,
not.
I'm fearless to
better
say
be
this.
careful.
No, I'm not. I'm actually saying this because I personally, for my immediate family, I have a case going on for more than 17 years now, around 20 now. So I feel like in the place to
It
say.
might be about some ancestors' property, I think.
No,
No?
we'll talk about this later.
Whoa.
Yes, please go on.
As we're discussing that, you know, there is shortage of judges in the country. We don't have enough judges, and that's the main problem. As compared to our population, there are less judges.
Okay.
If you see in other countries like US, Denmark, England, there are more judges as in ratio of the people. So this is the main problem that we face delay in cases. And then there are other ethical issues in which you're involved. So there are many problems. It's not the one problem, but there are many problems.
Okay,
to this.
okay. So just fair, you know, it's a question for everybody out there, and I might face a little bit of difficulty to ask this question over here, but I think I'm going to do that too as well. For example, I'm sorry, but I have to do this as well. No offense to anybody out there, may them be in the office too as well. So talking about the ex-Chief Justice of Pakistan, you know, while he took to the office, you know, the number of pending cases was very lower. And then, you know, he started going to other places for dam funds and whatnot. That was a great initiative. Until his term last, you know, the number of pending cases doubled. So what do you think that when a person of such sort or aura actually takes to the office, he should actually be concerned about the work within his office, or he should be concerned about the Pakistan at large?
See, Shahzad, there are two problems in this. One, there has to be executive job. You need to have more judges in that. And as you're discussing that, ex-Chief Justice of Pakistan was more focusing on public interest litigation issues as compared to the issues of people. So that's why there's like pending litigation right now. So, but the problem is again of judges. If there are more judges, you know, they can focus on all the aspects of our life.
All right, amazing. Sir, do you want to add on to this?
Shahzad Bhai, as you have said and quote one maxim, that's justice delayed, justice denied. So equally, another maxim is justice hurried, justice buried.
Really?
So meaning thereby we have to
Justice hurried, justice buried.
buried. Why it is?
Okay,
why it is,
I'm going to
why
stop
it
you
is-
over here. There's a
why-
reason for
why
that.
it
I
is.
know that
He's
you're a
going to
lawyer,
explain.
but I'm going to find my case over here.
Okay.
For
Yes.
example, let's talk about federal ombudsman, okay? So why do you think the federal ombudsman just takes 10 or 15 days to actually provide justice to people? Why can't, you know, why are they in a hurry then? You know, and do you think that you've got doubts about the type of decisions they have taken?
Here we have to.
I mean, we have an example of an institution.
Yes, but
So,
the ombudsman is basically the last forum, you know.
Yeah.
You have to exhaust all the available remedies in order to go to legal
But still,
ombudsman.
if they're not,
No. Here there is a difference between certain sort of litigations.
Okay.
Every litigation has its own nature.
Exactly.
In certain cases, we need and required a long moot where the recording of evidence is necessary.
Okay.
Certain things where we are just in its inquisitorial administration, one person will be called and he will be examined that what is the record and like that, and it will be decided. But vice versa, on the other hand, there is two theories, inquisitorial and then adversarial. Presently, all over the world, the system which is going on, that is the mixture of adversarial and inquisitorial. And basically, we were the pioneers, the Muslims were the pioneers. So whatsoever presently at this juncture, the system is going on, we are the pioneers. So in the whole world, this is not in the Pakistan, that litigations are going on and on. This phenomena is going on in America, in Europe. Even if I talked about, I have done one case where they approached me from the England, that when they are going over there in their Shariat courts, it will take more than 10 years. But vice versa, on the other hand, in Pakistan, the family courts are completing their tenure within 4 to 5, 6 months, 1 year maximum. So the families are resolved. So it's mean when a criminal trial is there, when civil litigation is there, so a lot of complexities of the procedures are there. So this is not an easier job to give a justice. So this is one difficult task. So we have to made it certain things where we should be able to made it in a definite time.
Right. Thank you so much for saying that. And thank you so much for gracing our show, especially on
Thank
this
you.
special
Well,
day of Labour's
thank you.
Day. Mr. Nasir Anjum Saab, Mr. Jawad Niazi Saab, and ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you learned something from us. But one more thing. Well, today is important news as well because, Shazad, you know why? Midnight today, the Emperor of Japan was actually abdicated his role to his son, and now instead of Akihito, we have Naruhito, if I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Yeah.
So, well, it was important news, so I thought I'll share it with all of you.
So, ohio gozaimasu to Naruhito as well. So, for everybody who's out there, we definitely hope that everybody's taken something from the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our responsibility, it is your responsibility to raise awareness about all of these facts and all of these laws which actually exist in today's time. And for, hats off to all of those people who are actually going to courts to fight for other people's right as well. Please continue to do so. You're a wonderful human being, and please write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of...
Well This Morning.
On Twitter.
Well This Morning without a G.
On Daily Motion and YouTube.
Also Well This Morning.
And this fabulous repeat is going to be at
5 past 11 p.m. tonight.
Till the next time, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.
Good morning.